In less than 2 years, I met my husband, moved to another country, regulated my hormones, and ended up in a career that feels like destiny. And none of it came from pushing, chasing, or even doing more. It all came from ease and embodiment. And in this video, I'm going to be explaining how I was able to get to that place after spending 10 to 15 years over functioning in hyper independence, perpetually single, with thyroid problems, and so much more drama. Hi, my name is Amanda. Welcome to this channel where we talk about how to manifest what you want in life without all the extra stress, chaos, and drama that most people are accustomed to. Lately, we've been talking a lot about nervous system regulation, feminine energy, masculine energy, polarity, all this really fun stuff. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we have coming out on this channel. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up because it helps us get it in front of more women. We've been getting a lot of feedback from women saying that they've been watching feminine energy channels and on their spiritual path for years, and none of it ever made sense until they came over here and they heard a practical, pragmatic, grounded explanation of what feminine energy actually is, so you can help the movement by giving this a like. As always, if I have extra resources for those of you who want to go deeper into the content that I'm going to be talking about in this video, then I will be sharing it throughout. I can tell you that there's two places where you can start. The first one is completely free, and it's by getting our Enhance Your Feminine Energy guide. All you need to do is input your name and email, and you will be emailed your guide, and you will also get access to the guide in our student portal, so you can download it from there. And in that guide, you're going to learn how to enhance your feminine energy in different areas of your life, whether it's money or relationships or health, so you can bring more ease and flow into the different areas of your life. And the second place you can get started is with our Magnetic Woman Transformation Bundle. Today is the last day that you can get access to this bundle at the early bird price. We just opened the doors to this for the first time, so it's at early bird pricing until midnight tonight. And through this portal, I cover the 13 initiations a woman must go through in order to go from hyper independent, surviving, having to push and shove and control, to becoming the woman that magnetizes everything that she desires. So if you want a transformation like the one that I had, that I just mentioned, get into that bundle, because I reverse engineered everything that I did to help other women get to that space too. With that in mind, let's go into some of the shifts that I had to make in order to go from hyper independent survival mode to being provided for, to having businesses that bring in money with ease, to regulating my hormones. Was a huge one, a huge change that happened after dealing with thyroid problems for 10 to 15 years. So the first shift that I had to make was to move from hyper independence to healthy receiving. So before, it sounded like I'll do it myself. If I don't do it myself, it's never going to get done right. I can't rely on the people around me. Whether emotionally or like physically, I can't rely on the people around me. That was the story that I had running through my head. Or there's always something out to get me. That was another story that I had in my head. That was the before. The after was letting masculine energy support me. And if you've already gotten our Magnetic Woman Transformation Bundle, there's an initiation there called the Surrender Series. That's one of the initiations, is we have to learn how to surrender and be supported. And in that, I go through deeply into the story of just how effed up things were before I met my husband, where I was not being properly supported by employees, by the people that were around me. The support just literally wasn't there. And it wasn't until I met my husband that I was like, oh, this is what it's like to actually be supported. But in order for me to actually meet my husband, I had to surrender first. So that's the initiation where I cover that for those of you who've already purchased it. And if you haven't, make sure to grab it if you want to hear the story and learn the process of surrendering so you can attract a healthy masculine man like that. So one of the things that happened to me, right, and I'll just briefly talk about it, was I had set up my life and business in a way where I was not being properly supported in the space that I needed to. I was not being properly supported by team because I didn't hire the right people for where I was supposed to go. They were great, it just wasn't the right fit. And then in addition to that, I didn't have systems or any of that set up in my previous businesses. So everything was just chaos. And it was chaos because I had been taught that in order for me to survive, I had to do more. In order for me to make money, I had to do more. And most of my mentors, to be frank, most of my really great business mentors were men. So I didn't really have examples of women who were doing really well in business from a place of integrity, who, in addition to that, were profitable and were doing things well. I had to learn that from men. So, of course, I was applying those principles. And then add into that, I had stories from, my family stories and ancestry and all that kind of stuff where it's like, the world is out to get you. It's a dangerous place, especially for women. Men can't be trusted, all that kind of stuff. So it was like this horrible cocktail of hyper independence. And because I had those beliefs that I could not be supported, then of course I create a business where I am not supported. Right? That's basically the gist of it. I do go deeper into it in the Magnetic Woman Transformation, but I had to learn to surrender. I had to learn to surrender first to the universe, and then I was able to receive very well from my husband. In fact, when I interviewed him on this channel, he says part of what had him fall in love with me was the fact that he was always constantly trying to help me in that shit show of a business I had back then. And I just received it so graciously. And he goes, "You allowed me to pour into you. Most women would not have done that." And that was one of the reasons why he fell in love. And the lesson here is that real abundance comes when your body believes that support is safe. And that's the shift that I had to make, and that's the shift that I help you make in the Magnetic Woman Transformation Bundle. The other thing that I had to do is I had to learn to soften into feminine polarity. So before, it looked like leading in relationships, trying to control outcomes, usually ending up with men who, for some reason or another, were not reliable. They weren't even necessarily bad men. They just didn't do what they said they were going to do as men, and that's not a good space for a man to be in. The healthy masculine does what he says he's going to do. So I would attract men who were not necessarily in their healthy masculine, even if they were good men. They had not necessarily matured to that level. And by the way, that has nothing to do with age, because I also dated men a lot older than me who had the same problem. And after learning these things and learning how to soften into my feminine polarity, I learned to trust, I learned to surrender, and I learned how to have polarity with a partner. I learned how to hold the feminine pole in relationships, and a lot of women do not know how to do that, and then relationships are problematic for them. So one of the things I had to learn how to do was learn how to become the receptive feminine. And again, I go very deeply into this in the Magnetic Woman Transformation Bundle, because the entire bundle is meant to walk you through these 13 initiations so that you feel safe receiving and that you expand your container to receive more and more, whether it's devotion from a healthy masculine man or money or whatever it is that you are trying to manifest into your life. When you become the magnetic woman, it comes to you. And it comes in a much easier way, and you do not sabotage it. So make sure to join us at the early bird price below. Next one is I had to learn to embody worth instead of performed confidence. I always came off as pretty confident, especially in every job I ever had. I always came off as pretty confident. That's why I was always put into like some sort of sales position or some sort of front-facing position in every job that I ever had. But before, especially when I got to my businesses, first I was a freelance writer. I was in the financial education space for like 8-9 years. And then I went into teaching women business and teaching women sales. And of course, everything in their life would come up when we were doing that, because when you are a coach and you're a trusted person, people tell you a lot of things. So I heard it all, basically. But before, especially with the most recent business that I had, where it was almost a 7-figure business, I was performing strength, I was shrinking desires, I was still trying to prove myself, I was doing too damn much, I was doing all the things all the time. After, what it looks like is grounded worthiness, soft power, and clean boundaries. And you know what else it looks like, at least in the form of business? A lot of systems that work even when I'm not. Thank you to my husband for building those, right? So a lot of this had to become, I had to like recalibrate my worthiness because I didn't even realize that I was doing this until I started becoming very aware of my core wounds. And if you go in the Magnetic Woman Transformation Bundle and you join us in there, there's going to be lessons on those core wounds and how they show up. And for me, I had a core wound on, well, if I achieve, that's how I'm going to get love. That was one of my wounds, and I was playing it out over and over and over again, and I had to become aware of that in order to recalibrate it. And the reality is that when you hold a lot more worth for yourself, you can hold more life. What does that mean? It looks like more abundance, more prosperity, more health, more money, more love, more support, more of anything that you could possibly imagine. You can have it when you're able to hold more. And that all comes from you holding more worth first. And then finally, I had to learn about alignment over hustle. This is actually one of my favorites. I know I talk a lot about manifesting my husband and relationships, but this is one of my favorites because it was one of the hardest ones for me to get, right? So before, it looked like constant pushing. It looked like fear-based productivity. If I don't do more, everything's going to collapse. If I don't do it myself, it's all going to fall apart. I couldn't take a break, essentially. Like I had basically, even though I was making a lot of money, I had to basically build a cage for myself because I had to prove, right? And I had to get love through achievement. So of course, what did my ego do and what did my subconscious do? It created the perfect obstacle course where I would have to do that. Right now, after, it looks more like intuition led decisions, and it looks like spacious prosperity. So in the Magnetic Woman Transformation Bundle, there's an initiation called the Oracle Within. And the Oracle Within is all about bringing your intuition and your sacred signal back online. Because when you bring that sacred signal back online, you will be guided in terms of what your next step is. It is not about hustle at that point. It is about following the intuitive guidance that you are receiving from that signal. But I'll give you a couple of examples. When I met my husband, I got the sacred signal. This was before I met my husband, where, for example, I was told by my intuition, hey, use what the last that you have on your credit card, because I was like flailing at the time and losing a business. Use the very last that you have on your credit card to get into this networking group. In that networking group, I would end up meeting my husband. The story is even crazier than that, and I go into the whole story in the Magnetic Woman Transformation Bundle, but that's a little sneak peek right there in terms of one of the examples in which my sacred signal came online, and it allowed me to meet my husband without dealing with dating apps, without going on constant dates all the time, without doing, honestly, like 80% of the shit dating coaches tell you to do. I didn't have to do any of it. I was just following my intuition. The second example that I have is Mindful Success Path. It's this business. It started on the side for fun because I had extra time because my husband took on the provider role, and he kind of had his businesses pretty much like automated and squared away. So I had a whole lot of extra time on my hands. And I started this for fun because I was like, well, we became holistic healers in Mexico. We became meditation teachers. I've added to my repertoire of coaching since then. I want to share some of the things that I'm learning over here for an English-speaking audience, which we were given permission to do by our teachers. And I would start getting these downloads around the summer of this year where it was like, hey, start creating these low ticket offers. Low ticket offers means anything less than $2,000 for those of you who don't know business, and just have autopilot sales coming in every day from YouTube. Now, the reason why this is crazy for those of you who don't know about business is usually when you're in the type of business that this is, out of the education space or the consulting space or the coaching space, you do not start with the low ticket items. You do not start with the 27s, the 197s. Normally what they tell you to do to make a lot of money very quickly is to start doing private coaching, because that's the most expensive thing, and it's always going to be the most expensive thing because it's your time and your energy and your brain. So you charge accordingly. Well, that is not what I was being guided to do. Not at all. I was being guided to do the exact opposite. And within 2 weeks of creating a bunch of programs, I had the Feminine Magnetism Mastery Program, the Magnetic Commitment Program, High Value Woman Transformation. Within 2 weeks of having these things ready, which I think was in August of this year, I was making hundreds of dollars a month in 2 weeks in completely passive sales Every single day, there's a passive income sale coming in from one of the YouTube channels on Mindful Success Path. My husband had an agency where he helped 7 and 8 figure coaches with their launches. And he's like, I've behind the scenes, and he's like, I have never seen anything like this. And you're doing it without spending a dime on ads. I've never seen anybody be able to do this. And he was behind the scenes of a lot of like 7-figure coaches that you guys would know their names. And he's like, I've never seen this happen. You're the only person I've ever seen this happen with. And that was all completely guided and based on intuition. The Magnetic Woman Transformation Bundle, same thing, completely led on intuition. It was just download after download after download of the 13 initiations that needed to be in there. It wasn't even live yet, and I was already making sales from students who had bought other things and found out about it, and they were like, sign me up. Again, completely led by intuition. So when a woman goes through those 13 initiations, one of them being the Oracle Within, and turning on her intuition again, your life gets easier once your intuition comes back online. And I teach you how to do that in the Magnetic Woman Transformation Program. So the woman that I used to be was overwhelmed, overworking, overgiving, overfunctioning, having a bunch of thyroid problems, and perpetually single, and dealing with men that she could not rely on, and really dealing with people that she could not really rely on. The woman that I've become is soft, magnetic, supported, chosen, and prosperous. Not from a place of pushing or control, but from a place of allowing myself to receive and being regulated in my nervous system. Now, if these shifts speak to you, and those are shifts that you want to have, then I invite you to join us in the Magnetic Woman Transformation Bundle. It is at early bird pricing until midnight tonight, and then it goes up in price. So if that's something that calls to you, follow your intuition, follow the sacred signal, check out the link below. You'll see exactly what it is that we cover, and take advantage of that early bird price, because it will never ever be at this price again. And if you get in now, you're basically grandfathered in at that price for any updates that I make down the road. So the information for that will be below, and I'll probably also have it up here as well. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. It is an honor to be your teacher. It is an honor to be an example for you. It is an honor to answer the questions that are constantly coming in on the YouTube channel, and also in emails, and also from the students. This path truly feels like it was destiny. This is a path that before I discovered feminine energy and really understood it in the way that I understand it now would have been completely impossible. And for that, I am forever grateful. So if you're watching this and you're like, well, that's great for her, I want you to look at me and realize that I used to be where you are. I was there not that long ago, just a few years ago. I spent most of my life there and was able to completely transform it and turn it around. And if I was able to do it, you can do it too. But you don't have to do it alone like I did. You can join us in the Magnetic Woman Transformation Bundle. Join us, walk through the portal, and you're going to be shocked at the woman that you become after those 13 initiations. Thank you so much for giving me your time today, and I'll catch you on the next one.